While I was doing my PhD, I was just sometimes thinking about how my research is focused in a smaller and smaller topics. My title on my slide was geology, and then I added hydrogeology. Then after a few years I added environmental hydrogeology. And then I became more in my research group at the poor scale, a small scale. So it's like a small scale environmental hydrogeology. Like internally I was feeling like, am I now contributing to solving problems? Or when I'm going that deep, how would my skills and this very specific knowledge I'm providing would integrate into the other knowledges and contribute to the big picture? So that is, of course, the question that I guess many scientists that are focusing, they're asking themselves.
If you think back to the ways in which universities have been organized over the last 100 years, with the establishment and multiplication of disciplines, what we've really done over these last decades is create a lot of silos. And those silos are spaces in which we're allowed to really specialize, which is fantastic, right? So we can go really deep. But what that does is that it also creates a very particular kind of culture. And within that culture, we have a particular language that we speak, a particular way in which we're organized, a particular set of values, things that we see that others don't see. And when you enable unusual collaborations to emerge, what you're doing is breaking down some of these cultures, breaking down some of these barriers. And what that enables is the potential for the recognition of something beyond that which you understand to exist, something beyond that which you have ever thought about asking questions.
The pandemic continues to accelerate. In the past 6 weeks, the total number of cases has roughly doubled.
The challenges that we are facing today are crossing so many domains. They're not isolated within one specific area of expertise. A very good and obvious example is climate change. Originally, climate change was considered a problem in the climate sciences, so much more the meteorological approach to it. But through the years, we have come to realize that it is entirely entangled with historical patterns, with the way that we have organized a global economic system, movements of goods and people across the globe, but also the human behavior and how that affects the climate around us.
What I think we're realizing now is that the ways in which our knowledge systems are structured, the ways in which our university systems are structured, that they don't necessarily meet the needs of the challenges that we see emerging. That they extend beyond our disciplinary silos.
For me, a way of dealing with it was that I decided to just link with more disciplines. I'm from geosciences, and my porous material is soils and rocks. However, in medical sciences, for example, their porous material is human tissues such as bones, brain, vascular systems. And if you go further, for example, in art and history, their porous materials are statues, monuments, and the work of the art conservationists. And these similarities can serve as a bridge to connect those disciplines together.
All right, here we are. Welcome, all of you, Unusual Collaborations teams. This is the kickoff.
A year ago at CUCo, we funded 6 unusual collaborations to allow them to walk the talk. One of these 6 projects is Structures of Strength.
And going back to why porous materials, they are very diverse. It could be a mountain that you're visiting, it could be fruit box, it could be painting, human body, catalyst, but when you zoom in all of them, you see porosity, right? And that became our common language. Today is a special day. We have an interdisciplinary meeting where a group from Art and History department are visiting Geosciences lab. Comes there.
Yeah, this is really
really
hydrophobic.
Yeah. Wow.
It's really hydrophobic. Yeah.
It's almost just like a perfect little ball that stays.
Yeah, it's really.
I met Marjolein in a CUCo meetings, and there, in a short chat we had, we realized that we are both working on papers, one in ancient papers, one in future papers.
Yeah, now it's very hydrophobic again. It's really, this is already very interesting what's going on.
And what do you
and you
find
see it,
interesting?
you see it penetrating. It's you see it getting smaller or evaporating. Both.
And why
probably
is
at the
this
same time.
interesting to you?
They look at the paper as ancient material and how it was built centuries ago, and we are trying to design the future papers and printing techniques. As a geoscientist, I look at, for example, drop of rains and when they hit the ground and how they penetrate in the soil. And if you look closely into the printing, it's the same process happening, that the drops of ink are hitting the surface of the paper, which is a porous material. You can look at it as a very tiny layers of rock, and they penetrate into the paper. This is, if you take a paper and cut it and look at the side of the paper, that's what you see.
And normally, like you have.
I like to think about interdisciplinary research as a form of travel. So imagine that you are traveling halfway across the world, and you're going to a place that you've never been before. You don't speak their language. You don't know what their customs are. You are interested, you're curious, perhaps, but it's also a little bit scary. It's unfamiliar. It's intriguing. And it's intriguing perhaps because you realize that there are other ways of being and thinking and doing that are different from those that you've been familiar with throughout your life. And that's confronting because it makes you think a little bit about, well, why do I do what I do? Why do I value these things in these particular ways? And hey, why are they valuing these things in these particular ways? Why are they doing what they're doing?
It's really interesting that how similar methods are being used. Also the old times, when you talk about ancient art, it's like it's lots of these things has been done in other ways, but this was a measuring by other methods, mostly by also human senses.
I think like in the past they were struggling a lot with scarcity, because if you have all these super expensive pigments and dyes, then you don't want them to just sucked up by your material.
So when you travel, you engage in a mindset that's far more open to difference, and open also to not just making a contrast between what your experience is and what somebody else's experience is, but also openness to valuing those experiences of others and being able to potentially integrate them in some form into your own practice, such that when you return home after your travels, you're different.
So I was wondering about you, Jan. Did you find something interesting today?
Yes, I found many things interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
And if we in the art lab study it with historical reconstruction techniques, there is a sort of emphasis on the sense of feeling. How does this practice work? What do I see in real time? And now through your demonstrations, I got to see how you have a sort of super emphasis on the sense of seeing. And we were, if you complement that, you get such a more complete picture of what you're actually questioning.
Interdisciplinarity for me means 1 and 1 is 3. So when scholars from different disciplines work together, unexpected and new insights or concepts come out. They are being developed. Sounds easy, sounds exciting, it also sounds easy maybe, but in practice, it is quite difficult.
In the Structure of Strength platform, 2 times per year, we organize SOS days, where researchers come together to review and talk about projects that they are doing together in this platform, and also look at the new projects and opportunities to create new collaborations between the platform. Yes, come in.
What I decided to call this is what we do in terms of mass transport simulation in single catalyst particles. And then we have clay, parts of clay in there. And then we have these zeolite domains that are aluminosilicates that have active sites that actually do the cracking.
So most researchers do not realize that you need to prepare yourself differently for an interdisciplinary encounter. You cannot assume that your audience knows what you're talking about. So you will have to get rid of your usual ways of giving a presentation, for example. You need to use different words, and your attitude should be more questioning, inviting your audience in instead of talking to them.
And then the second topic, so I have still time. Any questions so far?
Maybe when you finish.
Okay, fine.
Starting to work outside or beyond your disciplinary box is more difficult than you think, because first of all, you often don't realize that you have worked within the confines of a disciplinary box, and that there are certain beaten tracks, certain disciplinary habits that you work with and that you don't even reflect on anymore.
And please stick it on the table here, on the board here, so that we can collect all the properties and then we can connect them together at a later stage.
Basically, we are looking to find similarities, which we call them in a structural strength, the hidden similarities. We want to dig into different disciplines to find out what properties and what aims are they after, and trying by understanding that, then we can link the works of different disciplines.
So unpacking your own disciplinary perspective is a very important first step in making interdisciplinary collaboration successful.
I think for me, the beginning steps are the biggest challenges when you get a very diverse group of scientists together and you want to establish the common language, you want to establish trust, you want to establish optimal interactions that the people start to really learn from each other. I think that initial phases are the biggest challenge.
Yes.
Guys, we're supposed to have drinks.
You missed out on the program point.
This was on the program, literally.
Exactly.
I found one person more crazy than myself. As a scientist or as thinker, you have to have a spare time always to let your mind free, because creativity comes. But if every day you go to work and you are just drawn into your work, you have never time to look around to see what the future needs.
Young researchers are very much burdened by the system now because they have a multitude of tasks. They have to do research, they have to teach, they have all sorts of administrative work, they have to supervise students and PhD students, and all that work needs to be done within, a 24 or actually 8-hour working day. And it doesn't fit. So the academic career is very much based on the amount of publications, the amount of research funding that's acquired, which is easier done alone, so individualized, or on a very specific topic. That can work very well for many people. They thrive in this system. But there are also people that wish to cross those boundaries because indeed they want to address those complex challenges. And that is really where we see a friction at this moment.
With SOS, you have to arrange a lot. You have to try to initiate the sparks with those disciplines. And it's considerably much more time than you think. So I've tried a few times to free up time, but then I look at all this stuff on the calendar and I say, okay, well, it's not much option to remove them. Therefore, one option remains on the table, which is overworking. So you have your dinner, and after that you have a couple of hours that you can work.
So at CUCo, we have learned a whole bunch over the last year. We realized that the institutional context is putting up a lot of barriers now because it is oriented towards another kind of research. And we need shifts in that system to be much more conducive to interdisciplinary research to take those barriers away. We also realized that it does take a specific set of competences to do this research. Competences that are not readily available or offered or trained for in the current academic system.
The Center for Unusual Collaboration, CUCo, has invited us to give us a SOS training day for interdisciplinary research.
The first skill that a researcher needs to bring into an interdisciplinary collaboration is the skill of listening. So to truly listen to what scholars from different disciplines, from other disciplines, bring to the conversation.
So if you see that these different levels of listening can also lead to different kinds of conversations you're having. If we listen more from trying to understand the other person's perspective, the empathic perspective, it might lead to a dialogue. So what you're trying to say is, no, actually what I'm trying to say is, and then, you can get into a different type of conversation.
Then over to the both of you to ask questions to Amir.
So I didn't fully understand your anxiety about the sustainability of materials. Can you explain that a bit better?
The exercise for disciplinary grounding aims to make researchers aware of their position within their own discipline, but also the disciplines around them. And they map themselves in the space according to those positions.
Please be on that side if you study humans, on that side if you study non-humans, so plants or objects.
Materials.
I found that for myself, studying non-human subjects are easier because sometimes I feel humans are biased. That's a joke, but yeah, we like things that are with more certainties, let's say.
Finding common ground is not necessarily about meeting in the middle, but that it's more about understanding each other's background and from there be able to move together or come to new insights and integrate those perspectives. And in this activity we're going to explore how that feels like doing an embodied exercise using a stick.
If they acknowledge that their disciplines are limited in order to be able to deal with the things that they care about, I want them to be able to find a space, and I want them to find other people who are also struggling with those limitations so that they can work together to move beyond them.
I have the feeling that there is some renewed energy at the university, and this renewed energy comes from more people knowing each other, these people creating new concepts together, forming new conclusions together. And the interesting thing is that this is not just happening between disciplines, but scholars bring interdisciplinary concepts and insights, they bring them home to their home disciplines.
Oh, okay.
Biochemistry, physics.
Thanks.
What I think of the SOS today, I think it's amazing. I think it's something that should happen more often. We're only sort of a tip of an iceberg because it's quite obvious for, I think, all participants that we have unexplored commonalities, but it just takes time to flesh it out.
Because I think if we want to go into team science, multidisciplinary science, then we need to have these platforms where we really talk to people that we would normally not meet at the conference where we go, which are usually rather specific.
Walking along with the Structures of Strength project for 1 year has helped us at CUCo realize how incredibly difficult it is to do unusual interdisciplinary research. You have a group of super enthusiastic researchers with a great skill set, a great set of expertise. But sitting together in that room doesn't automatically make them do true interdisciplinary research. We're just starting, and this really has made us realize how incredible the effort is that it takes, and that 1 year is really not enough.
I'm really proud of people who are now a member of SOS because they are almost all the SOS members are people who are really in SOS because they enjoy the environment and setting, right? So they are volunteer, obviously. And they find SOS as a platform that they can exchange knowledge, bring innovations to their discipline, and provide their knowledge to other disciplines to create impact.